Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill Dement, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall drywall repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
James.
This is a special podcast. I'm pretty excited. We've got Trish Murphy here with us, and she's going to be helping us along with this.
Yay! Hey, how are you?
Trish, welcome.
Thank you.
We have hit a milestone, and we did one of these off the wall podcasts, the last episode of the year to 2020, and we haven't done another one in half a year. So I figured, well, let's do one, but let's make this one even more significant because when this launches, it'll be our 1-year anniversary of the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast. So.
Yeah, in your intro, you're talking about our many adventures, and this is one I didn't see in the beginning. How do you even do a podcast every week? But it got easier, and we got comfortable with it. I did.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the process.
I love the process, too, and being able to kind of, I printed out the list. If you hear the paper running in the background, because I literally just printed out a list of every podcast we've done and the guests and the topics, and man, we've got a lot of hours worth of great content and amazing people.
We've really interviewed some fascinating people.
Yeah. So we thought it would be kind of fun to kind of revisit the off the wall, very unscripted. We invited Trish to come in and kind of, since Bill and I always host, she can come in and do the hostess with the mostest today.
Yeah, I get to be guest host today. I'm going to steal the microphone. And lead the way. Usually they have everything prepared for their guest, but we flipped the script today. And
sure did.
So, yeah.
Well,
so,
it's sure to be exciting.
Of course. Oh, always. When do we not have fun? Right?
Yes.
So a whole year, right? So let's look back a whole year ago, your first one. A lot has changed. We talk about all of that stuff.
Go back a year.
You remember the first one?
I feel like I'm floating.
You did. First one was the two of you. You were in the other room, right?
Yeah,
the
other
small
studio.
other
That's
studio.
one of the things that we did this year was build a new
new studio.
which
podcast
is huge.
studio.
Like how many business owners can say, I built a podcast studio?
Twice.
And then I built
Yeah,
two.
I built another one, right? So it doesn't happen very often. So you guys are really among a different group of people. I remember in that first, pretty sure it was the first episode, I learned about the Hannah Banana.
Mm-hmm.
You guys talked about.
Oh, Hannah Montana.
Is it Hannah Montana?
Hannah Montana, the
Hannah
van.
Montana,
Yeah.
the van.
We had a.
You probably could have found a banana in there. There was everything else.
Hannah Montana, the van. That's the one thing that sticks out. So, this is the first.
What was that? There was a Montana. What was
It was a Pontiac.
Montana van? I mean, back before we had like company branded vehicles, we just
had to have something to get guys out on the street.
I had to have people
years ago.
Man, it was horrible. I tell you what, God bless Mike Elliott, because he took over that van after a previous employee, and he literally had to spray bug spray. He bombed it every weekend because roaches would never stop. They just was a constant. Because the last guy he lived in it. He had McDonald's and maybe French fries like a toddler lived there, and it was just this crazy yuckiness. They didn't live long. We only had it for, I don't know, less than half a year, I think.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. So you've told this story along the way. You've met some really amazing people, and you've heard their story about being in business, and they've told you, like, you've discovered a lot of tips, tricks, insights into their industry. What is one of the things that's like your biggest aha moment? Man, I didn't know that. Because you guys have been in business for, 10 years or more, right?
Yeah.
And so this has been, a journey and a learning experience for you as well. So what's been like a couple of aha moments to stick out to you guys over the last year?
I'm thinking about when we had John Kennedy in. That really stuck with me. He's an IT guy, and he was talking about passwords.
Yeah.
And he was saying how effective it is just to have a sentence for your password that's 16 letters, and how many multiples of times more effective it is than just having a 6 or 8 letter password with gobbledygook.
Yeah, that was episode 9. And what's funny is that passwords are huge because, like, for years it wasn't that big of a deal because no one was like hacking. They were, but not like I literally had the exact same password and I just changed a digit here or there for years. It's funny. My wife Kelly, she's got a business. She has to rotate her passwords all the time, and so we have a bin of dog toys that Oliver and Fletcher play in. And Oliver, if you know Oliver, he's a cream golden retriever, and he always has to have 2 toys at least in his mouth at all times. And so I come home from work, and then Fletcher will literally jump on me and push me down practically, and then Oliver will go get 2 toys and then greet me with 2 toys. So Kelly has made it so like her passwords are like whatever his 2 toys are.
Now you've just let the world know.
Yeah, like Steve
Now
knows.
if Kelly gets
He'll come in with like a squirrel and a toy bacon, and it'll be like so.
I've never heard that before.
Listen, because we use BarkBox, and BarkBox would send us these toys, and so it'd be like bacon squirrel, and then you add in some numbers or something on the end, and it's kind of like the password thing is really important. If you can't do LastPass or some sort of password protector, safety is huge, and so John taught us that. Actually, one of the things that John taught that we actually talked about was emails, because he's listen, for a professional look, don't have a Gmail. Have an actual email address.
Yeah.
And of course we spent
Well, you were
years.
kind of already on that, though,
I was.
right? And then he just confirmed. I mean, you had already kind of switched us off, but he really confirmed that really is important if you want to look professional.
Yeah, and it was one of those things that I knew it was one of those, he's just being pretentious, But it to me, it's that professional look. It was funny because it wasn't until months later that I actually started getting Andy Lonzak with Creative Image Studios to listen to the podcast. And we had lunch one day, and he's like, James, you're killing me. I go, what? He says, you guilted me. I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, you guilt, because I went out and bought a real email address. Because he was like, his email address was Google's. You shamed me. I was like, well, sorry, Andy. But it just was one of those next tier, top level things that John taught.
Yeah. I mean, it points, we all start off like really small, unless you buy a franchise, right? But that's you're taking a financial investment, right? Whereas if you start with nothing, you're putting
bootstrapping.
you're putting tremendous amount of time investment, right? Which is totally fine. But you all start with the Gmail. I think every single one of us did it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point, you just need to grow up, and as your business grows and your brand evolves, right? So it's a very good point.
And I didn't know how inexpensive it was to do it, right? So you find the website you like, your GoDaddy account, you just spend the $12, and now you've got yourself James at, whatever.
And you look like a large corporation.
Yeah. Of course, it took forever, because during the course of this, of course, we fought and searched for years to actually acquire HoleInTheWall.com. That was one of our big wins a couple years ago.
Yep.
So that was big. I mean, so that was a good one. I mean, I've got a list of them. I really enjoy having some smart people on that are smarter than me, present company included. And you have like guys like Gerard Grant. He is our business attorney, but he helped us navigate through so many different things. And he's been on twice to talk about just how to make sure you're setting up your business right early so you don't have an issue down the road.
Yeah.
If you've got a partner, if you've got, what's your succession plan? I mean, we talked about succession planning just a few months ago, where what happens if you have an issue, or you want to sell, or you pass away, or does your wife have access to it?
Right, right.
It was a huge learning experience for us.
Yeah. When you start a business, it is very uncommon for a business owner to think about the end, right? And the reasoning is because they're like, I don't know if this is going to be successful or not, right? And that's a very valid, but you do need to be mindful that, hey, at some point, there's a tipping point at which you need to start thinking about the end. Like as soon as you start selling something, right, money's flowing, things are working, get a plan in place, right? Yeah.
And I've learned over the years that it doesn't take a lot of money to implement these big changes. It really is just a few $100s here, a little bit of money each month there, and you really level up your game a little bit. And as you get more serious about if you're starting a hobby business and it's not a big deal, obviously this podcast may or may not be for you, right?
Right.
But if you're trying to be serious and you want to figure out how you're going to move on, that kind of advice is crucial as far as I'm concerned. And you got it for free for listening to our podcast.
Right, right.
Now you know who to call and what questions to ask.
Yeah, Gerard was great.
Yeah.
And then, of course, along with Gerard, wasn't very long after we got introduced to his wife, Wendy, and she was on the podcast. And what a dynamic lady from the business world, but started
She's a hobby. It was her hobby business, and it's Winvia because that's named for their child.
I want to call it
Wendy.
cosmetics, but that's not what she's doing.
No, she sells soaps. She sells
Yeah.
like, you know, fragrances and soaps
and oils,
beard oils
lotions,
and
things like
lotions.
that. Yeah, wow.
room spray
And she brought some to share. Oh my gosh.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we use them at the house. It's great.
Yeah.
Gerard gave us a gift one year. And
Yeah.
it's a whole suite of Winvia products. Like, ooh,
Yeah, very high
delightful.
quality. But she was, you could just tell she's just a high quality person too. Driven, go getter.
Listen, female, African American, like working in her garage, making soaps and packaging. If you follow her on Instagram, she shows videos of her like slicing the soaps and making the chemicals and getting shipments in. And she's just got a ton of great experience and knowledge. And a lot of our listeners have that kind of mentality where maybe you have a really good job, but you have a great idea. Well, be inspired by some pretty amazing people.
Yeah, and I think that's what she did, right? She kind of held her job. You know, it's like standing on the dock and you just keep edging the boat over closer till you get close enough where you can step on it. And I think that's kind of what she did.
Yeah, I'm actually having dinner with him on Saturday.
Oh,
nice.
excellent.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
There's so many of those amazing stories in the small business world, which is why you started the podcast. I remember early, probably 2 years ago, one of our first meetings, we were talking about, hey, podcast would be kind of cool because, we have some really funny conversations around the table, right?
we
And
had
you
a
guys
few.
have, there's a lot of great stories. And then from that, we said, hey, we're just one business with a lot of really great stories. There's tons of other businesses out there with really great stories
Yeah.
too. So let's tell those stories.
Yeah.
And then learn from each other, right?
Yep, it's true.
Yeah, I remember I got a call from Bruce Cherry with Salem Media because we used to record, we used to do video or radio spots for the Rays games and stuff. And because we were on as a guest star on one of his Saturday shows with the Fern Foundation guy, Audrey Kahn. And he said, listen, our Saturday guy has moved. Do you guys want a radio show on Saturdays every week? We can pre-record it during the week. You would just have to drive to Altamont once a week, sit in the studio and record the studio. And I'm like, I remember I was actually in Sam's Club shopping, and I'm like, all right, Bruce, I'm not you know what? That's a good idea. Let me see. And he told me what the price was, a little more than I wanted to spend. I was thinking, well, I really don't want to spend that kind of money, but I love the idea of getting our voices out there. And I'm a big podcast listener. And so I called Bill from Sam's and go, hey, listen, Bruce just called, and he said this. But if we don't want to do that, I'm a tech. I grew up, I lived in the tech world forever, so I could build us a podcast studio for a fraction of that cost. And you're like, I don't need a podcast for. You literally was like, oh, okay, don't think about James, thanks,
Well, and then I don't remember if it was before or after, but also Chris from FMS.
Right,
He was
part.
in house one day. He's, you need to be doing blogs and you need to be doing a podcast. I go, there's that word again, podcast. We need to be doing a podcast.
Well, and we were already writing blogs.
Yeah.
We are, and so Chris, we are referring to Chris Connor, the owner of SMS Franchise Marketing Systems. He was actually on episode number 3, and he came to town. Actually, was on a cruise, and we didn't really have. I wasn't here. He met with you.
Yep.
And you guys were brainstorming, and like we do, which kind of came up with the idea of the podcast. And he's like, hey, you need to be doing blog posts. Got it. You need to be doing social media. Got it. You could be doing a podcast.
Yeah. No, I think it really got my attention because you had already mentioned it, and then Bruce Cherry reached out to us. And when I heard it from Chris, that was the third guy. I'm going, okay, everybody's talking podcast, even though I don't fully understand it or the implications. Probably something here. Let's give it a look.
Little did you know that I had already spec'd out the entire studio, and I was just kind of waiting for the time when he's like, you know what? All right, let's look into it. He said, well, listen, it might cost us a couple $1,000. I said, just do it. I'm like, all right, boom, done.
Yeah. I remember that.
That was fun.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. So, looking back at the last year, clearly lots and lots of really good folks on. What has been some of the most memorable feedback from your audience? Listeners.
I got a good one.
Yeah, I got a good one too. Go ahead.
Probably.
You're probably stealing mine.
Yeah, well, I was going to talk about the job sites. So one of the we don't have a ginormous fan base, right? But because we don't push it, we don't promote we're not trying to make money. This is not a monetized podcast. Smart List and all the big ones out there making money on. We're just here to provide information for future business owners, franchise purchasers potentially, or small business people. But one of the side effects we didn't realize was that our construction guys, our drywall guys are on job site and they're listening to music all day long. Well, they're putting our podcasts on while they're working. And and so they're really kind of getting a behind the scenes listen to what we do and why we do it, getting some good advice and kind of learning. And then the homeowners, well, who what's that you're listening to? Oh, that's the owners of our company. Do they have a podcast? And then, it's so the unseen benefit for the longest time was that we are actually not just teaching, sharing with our listeners in the business world, but we're sharing with our employees too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was as though they were sitting in on business meetings with us almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And my son is one of our employees, and I'd ask him, "Did you hear this one yet?" And he says, "No, I let them build up, so there's 5 or 6 of them, and then I can listen to them all day one day."
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, the binge listen to the
Yeah,
podcast. Yeah.
So
I don't know, it's kind of fun because our kids work in the business too, so they don't see what dad does all day sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fun that they get a chance to do
yeah,
that.
the joke is, it just looks like we're goofing off all the time.
Yeah.
It just looks like it. It's not real.
It's not real.
Not always.
Not
It's
always.
It's
not.
practiced.
What has been outside of your employees? What has been some other memorable feedback just from other folks that have listened to it?
I've had a lot of people that listen to it. Like sometimes the guests we have on don't listen to it until right when we
Yeah, when they've been
invite
invited or
them.
booked on the
Oh,
show.
sure, I'll come on your podcast. Let me listen to some podcasts.
Yeah.
Like we recorded a podcast earlier today that's going to launch a week after this. And, she's like, oh, yeah, well, since the invite, I've been listening to the podcast. And, some guests are great and some guests not. I want to be a good guest. And, she wanted to make sure
Yay.
she had her ducks in a row. And she was
Yeah.
great. I can't wait to let that drop.
And one of the phenomena is that sometimes a guest is on there and they share it with their friends, and they're suddenly like, "Well, I've got a story to tell. How come I want to be on that?" And so we've actually gotten some guests that we wouldn't have otherwise known, but they knew somebody who was on the podcast and they wanted to come tell their story too. Love that.
Yeah, we got several. Like we had someone on the podcast, Dr. Joe Baker, from Baker Chiropractic. He's got 2 in the hopper. One that we just recorded and one that we're going to be recording soon.
Nice.
Just because he liked the experience, he understood why we were doing this.
Right.
When I was on the phone with the podcast guests that we're going to drop, I mentioned to her what we do. She said, well, what are you doing? What's your podcast? You talking about drywall? I'm like, no, we're not talking about drywall. We just want to share our business journey and learn from other business people. And you could just kind of hear her. She sometimes goes, yeah, I love that.
Nice.
I like that.
Good.
And so what we're doing, I think, is resonating. It may be 3 years before we get a ton of traction. But as far as I'm concerned, we're going to have 3 years of great archive.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, and one of the benefits of actually saying it out loud, recording and laying it down, is sometimes the best way to understand something is to say it out loud.
Right.
Once in a while, I've got an idea, and James will say, "Well, we'll go think it through, go flesh it out," and then come back and tell me. I said, "James, you understand the way I process it is by talking to you
Yeah.
about it."
Yeah. You're an external processor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you have
this
to
is
talk
going to
it through.
happen because you're listening, not because I go sit in a corner.
Yeah. And
James, darn it.
usually my response is, if all I have to do is listen, I'm in.
Usually that's it.
If I have
occasional
to do, if I have
comment.
to do something else, the answer is no.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
no, it really is. And being able to kind of talk through it. And one of the other advantages that I really like about it is, like, we've been writing blog posts and stuff for our franchise websites and our business stuff, but we have a chance to take these blog posts and turn them into narratives that we can discuss on air with people and with each other. Some of my favorite podcasts have just been me and Bill with no guests, and we're just talking through issues. Talking through something we thought about, something we're thinking about. We just did one with Mike Elliott on the domino effect of warranty work. What happens when you have warranty work? But if you go all the way back, Bill, I don't know if you remember the very first one we did, episode 6. We did one on the building a positive company culture, because that was kind of the foundation.
Yeah, and
of
we
who
feel
we
really
are.
strongly about that.
Mm-hmm. And I've actually counted, company culture, professional approach, company alignment, and we've had some really good, just you and me sitting here talking through the potential, benefit with that. I dig it. My favorite one is small changes, big results.
That was good. That was from the book Atomic Habits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the aggregation of marginal
Yeah,
gains.
and for those of you who may not heard it, it's making small improvements on a daily basis and then compiling them to see large changes that can come from just having an attitude of making small improvements. It can be quite powerful, actually.
Yeah, because those build on yourselves. And what I like about it is that's something that you've done in your business, right? And so yeah, you read the book, but you didn't read the book and then implement it. You had already been doing many of those things for years.
It was part of our company culture.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Actually, Bill read the book long ago.
Yeah.
I at least heard a story about that was in the book. And so we started implementing a lot of these things. And then he said, what was that author? And so, yes, you went back
I
and
looked it
dug
up.
in, looked it up,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, I've gotten some really great feedback on that episode.
Yeah, oh, good.
Because it matters. It's like a little bit like when we did the Level Up the Refresh podcast a few months ago. You know, talk about spring cleaning and how we leveled up our houses. Well, let's level. Can I talk? Level up our business, and you know, whether it's painting a wall or right around the same time we did the studio, the new studio.
Yeah,
got the new graphics on the walls and stuff. And that was one of those that I got. You know, I got texts from buddies saying, "Man, that kind of hit me. It's time to do some house cleaning.
Yeah,
house cleaning."
One of the things that you did, I really was the new business podcast with Bill and James logo. That is terrific. It has a neon look. I love that.
I'll actually buy the neon sign someday.
Yeah,
but the logo, I love that logo.
And then you had them printed up, and we took a lot of photos that we that employees had taken, that we'd taken over the years, and we must have about 15 or 20 of those photos around in the shops. But I like that it's saying something constantly. Those are little reminders that are working 24 hours a day that there was something here before you came, and this is what it was, and this is what we are, have become, and here's where we're going.
Yep.
And anybody who stays around here very long can see that we're not stagnant. Yeah, we're not where we were. We're not where we want to be. Yeah. But we continue to move forward to our goals.
Yeah, and we want, we're professional on the outward side, so all of our customers can see us and understand who we are. We've got great reviews, great vehicles, great employees. But internally, we are kind of a bootstrap company. We have bought, the Hannah Montana vans, and we have, bought used equipment, and just to try and figure out how to grow. But as we have been successful, we wanted to make sure the employees could see that. That's why we did the new break room. We did the new logos on the walls and stuff. It's kind of fun to kind of go through that process. Of course, building the training facility helped us kind of ignite that process a little bit because we had deadlines to meet on that. So, yeah, I like it.
Yep. School of Rock.
School of Rock.
It's not a rock. That should be a rock band, by the way.
Or a movie.
Movie, yeah, that too.
Could be that.
Cello.
So talk to us about, tell everybody about some of the unintended consequences of this podcast, both good and bad. Unintended consequences.
The stress of inviting guests on every week. No, that's a good consequence. We have to find the right people. I think we've been blessed that we have a really good sphere of people that we've been able to kind of tap into.
Yeah. I don't know if there's been a lot of unintended consequences because we were pretty purposeful when we designed it and started out.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much followed the plan.
I don't have a lot of negatives. I don't think I can't think of a negative outside of if I'm on vacation, we couldn't do a podcast. I think we missed 2 weeks, I think, the entire time. And then we doubled up.
Yeah, we doubled up.
So we couldn't necessarily, and I felt guilty that we just couldn't do it. I remember we took a break at the end of last year for a week or two, and your son Zane's like going, what? So it's not gonna,
I got nothing to listen to.
On Tuesday, it's not going to drop, And even on the Tuesdays, like I arbitrarily, we'll drop every Tuesday at 9:00. I literally pulled that date and time out of thin air. But now in my head, it must drop. No non-negotiable. It has to drop Tuesdays at 9 a.m. just because if I don't, I may drag it out a little bit longer than I need to. Yeah. I'm not sure there's any negatives.
Yeah. And since you got the studio set up, several other people have come in and used the studio. Yeah. So that was unintended, but a positive thing. Yeah. That's great that other people can use it as well.
Good consequence.
That was kind of unintended.
Yeah, I've been able to help other people launch their podcasts and record podcasts. I know we have another one coming up with our good friend Bonnie. She's going to be hopefully doing, I want to see if I can drag her in and do her own show here soon. Bonnie, if you're listening, it's time.
Yeah.
That's good. It really is a good consequence. I mean, and we're not really charging for it, but if we ever want it to be really, we could charge for that, I guess. But right now it's just friends and family.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't charge them, it means you like them. And if you send them a bill, then they understand.
I did one. I'll give you the first one for free. And if you continue.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know, I learned this online about 6 months ago, the average podcast doesn't last 7 episodes. And they say that if you can get past number 7, like the 7-year itch, I don't know, you're going to your chances of success are great.
Yeah, I think you must just kind of hit a groove because one of the things that really stands out in my mind is how nervous I was specifically when we started it, never having done a podcast, uncomfortable with the sound of my own voice, those kinds of things. You're recording into a microphone, you're wearing a headset. It's a different feel. It's not something you run into in your everyday. And just listening to some of the early podcasts, we've gotten better and more comfortable. Yeah. Speaking for myself, you always sounded comfortable with that.
Yeah, sort of. I remember because the very first intro was longer and a little, and I could hear that I made a few little, not grammar, just like my tongue got fat for that word. And I was listening. We had a guest in the chair, and we were playing it and listening as we were introing. And we go, man, I got to change that intro. And so then the next week, I rewrote the entire intro.
Right.
Well, it sounds good now.
All right. I thought it sounded good before, but hey, he's the boss.
He's the boss.
Sometimes.
So when you have guests come in, right, you talk to them, you get to know them on a personal level. What has been a really big, what's something that has surprised you about a guest, something that you learned about them, that you, maybe somebody even that you've known for a while, and then you brought them here and had them as a guest, and you learned something about them and it really surprised you about them?
Good question.
Well, I think about the 2 guys that are from out of the country who came in and into the States by buying franchises. And of course, we met them, I think, through BNI.
Right.
And so you know them on a business level, but as you get to know them and then you bring them on a podcast, now you begin to understand what their story was. For instance, Michael Batali with Wow One Day Pounding, he's Italian, but he came through Brazil and then into the U.S. And there's an entire process that men like him, entrepreneurs who want to own a business and be in the United States, there's an entire process they go through. Yeah. And I was really surprised with, to learn some of the things that he had faced. And then the other gentleman, Michael, is that his name?
It's Andreas Rubio with the Grounds Guys.
Man, terrific guest. And he had a really similar experience coming from Colombia.
Yep.
And I was really surprised. This is a guy who had a job in government, had a well-paying job, but he came to the United States. He said, you don't even think about it, but you now no longer have credit. You're just starting at the bottom again.
Yeah. I've actually spent a lot of time in the past, couple of weeks really digging into this because they're in America with E2 visas. And so they have to have a business. And when we were talking to Michael Batali, he was on, what episode was that? I don't know. I'll get to it. But he basically says, I wanted to get my family and my money out of the country. Wow. And Brazil, by the way, is not a treaty state. He could not have gotten a visa if he was in dual citizenship with Italy, because Italy was a treaty visa. So he got really blessed to kind of get out of there. And that's episode 20.
Yeah.
And so I've been talking with immigration attorneys. What if we meet somebody who wants to come into America and start a business? We have a great model for that.
Yeah.
Right. So we basically have a business in a box. We can get you a truck and have our marketing. And here's all of our logos and all of our online training, all of our training center here in town. And you can absolutely take this business and go anywhere in America because 97% of all homes in America have drywall.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Michael Batali told me a few weeks ago is, listen, understand that outside of America, drywall is not a big deal. And so make sure you let everyone understand that.
That was really a moment of enlightenment, wasn't it?
It was. It was like let everyone know that if you're not in the country, well, what is drywall? What is this? Oh. And so just make sure you spend enough time saying that every house in America's got drywall. And so the market is really big.
Yeah.
But trying to figure out how to help entrepreneurs that want to come into the country to benefit the country is where, one of my focuses here in the last few weeks for sure. Yeah.
I thought David Edmondson was really interesting as well, the owner of Colonial Florists.
Yeah.
And he's been on a couple of times.
Twice now, yeah.
But great gentleman, well-spoken. And then you begin to dig in. You go, oh, wait, we know a lot of the same people. Oh, wait, you're involved in Boy Scouts. Oh, wait, you just don't know. And this is a guy who took over a family business that his dad and uncle, I believe it was, started after returning from World War II.
Took it over with his siblings. There's 3 of them.
Yeah.
And they've been running it for a couple of generations now.
They all grew up working in the flower shop, and then, into adulthood, they worked in the flower shop. And then when their parents were ready to retire, the kids came together and bought the business.
Yeah.
Very interesting story there, with that one. It's, that brings in a dynamic of the family owned and run, the multi-generational family run owned operation, that you don't see a lot anymore. Right. But that's
kind of why I wanted to bring him on in the first place.
Yeah.
It was like, I want to hear, how in the world can you work with your siblings every day?
Right.
I love my brothers and sister. I'm not sure I want to work with them every day.
Yeah.
And then he started that job at 16, and it's the only job he's ever had.
Right.
Oh, I'd forgotten that. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah.
It is nuts.
And he's such a quality guy.
Yeah, he was great.
And so you think we know all the people that we have on the podcast, but we don't. Sometimes we have, we're referred to, like you brought us, Trish, you brought us David.
Yep.
He's one of your clients, Marketing Smarty Pants. Dr. Joe brought us the one that's coming up soon. It's kind of fun. I actually was visiting another BNI chapter where I found Andreas. He's not even somebody in my sphere group, but I saw him, heard a story. I'm like, I got to get this guy on the show.
Yeah, he was a good interview.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy we really enjoyed that you brought from one of your connections with FAVOB, Stu Smith.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about
Stu.
Stu's, he'll say, I run a successful business and I've run one on the ground before. And so quite a tremendous background he has, in business world and with people. He's been a professional facilitator. So if you don't know what that is, they go in, they help organizations and company have these really complex conversations about, who they are, mission statements, strategic planning, and that type of stuff. And if you've ever been involved in those conversations, where you're talking about some pretty significant, who are we as a company with a group of people, you're going to get a ton of different opinions and perspectives, and you want to make sure everybody's heard and that you're capturing in a constructive way everybody's perspectives and things. And that's what he has done for the longest time. He has an HR background and, all of these things, and Air Force or Army veteran was.
Yeah, he was quite impressive.
I almost said Air Force and would give him a promotion there. And
spoken like a true Air Force person.
So, but no, he's, really very dynamic and, met tons and tons of people. So he's always a fun one to have around.
Yeah, he was a good guest. A lot of fun, well-spoken, intelligent.
And he was really the first nonprofit that we had. We support the FAVOB, the Florida Association of Veteran-Owned Businesses.
Yep.
And he's the CEO of that. And although we support him as a company, we wanted to take a second and highlight them as a business.
Yep.
On our podcast, because I think it's important to give as well as it is to learn.
Yeah. Because nonprofit is a business too, right? The only difference is what they do with their profit. The profit goes to benefit someone else, but with a corporation, the profit goes to the stockholders, right? The shareholders.
Bill, we should just file for a nonprofit. Sometimes we don't make a lot. No,
I feel like one now sometimes.
It's not about, I have had sat around and had crazy ideas. And well, what if I started a nonprofit marketing company and we just did marketing for nonprofits, right? So I'm not actually doing that. So you guys calm down.
You just couldn't.
It's only a rumor.
Some of my worst clients are nonprofits.
You said that. I did not say that. I did not say that.
Just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Thinking out loud. When my father was a printer, I'll say this now because he's no longer a printer. There used to be a little book called The Shepherd's Guide. And it was a tiny little, almost pamphlet, like with 100 pages. It was all Christian-owned businesses.
Yeah.
And so if you were a Christian-owned business, you would pay for a little spot in The Shepherd's Guide. And my dad owned a Christian-owned print shop called New Creation Printing. And I asked him, why'd you stop advertising in that years ago? He's because every person that came there was usually a pastor from a church, and they wanted a discount on all the services.
Or something for nothing.
Yeah, it was just like, bummer. Yeah. But sometimes, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they ask for a discount. That is the discount price.
Yeah, that is.
That is the discounted price. Yes, there you go.
I guess I was really surprised about, and I'm sad to learn he's no longer going to be in this town. But that was on episode 24. We met Dustin Fowler with Sherwin-Williams.
That was a surprise.
And we wanted to talk about relationships with vendors. So small business people, trade service people, it's important to have key relationships with vendors like Sherwin-Williams, and we have them with several other ones. And in the middle of this podcast, we realized that he's got this whole like Honduras nonprofit-y type thing where he's like helping farmers get their goods to market and he's literally changing lives in Honduras. So we actually spent like half the podcast really digging into that. It's
fascinating story.
Yeah, and so he's moving now, by the way, so he's not going to be
I had heard
Orlando, but sad face Dustin, if you listen to this, call me. But that was it was a really interesting podcast. Like I want to go back and listen to it again because there's so much good meat in there.
Yeah. It's not a bad idea. I mean, it's a really interesting concept because we forget to talk about it, but your relationships with vendors and even sometimes your competitors
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
are vital because you can't do everything. And in marketing, I need other marketing agencies because sometimes it can be so technical and so niche down in marketing that
we don't exist in a vacuum, that's for sure.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I can do websites, but I can't do them the way that Ken does them. Right. And when a client needs what he does, I would have to go find a developer and he's already vetted, I think it's fantastic. So he can help get one of my clients, a better result. Right. And it's fantastic. So we all have that.
Yeah. Well, recently we had an employee who left and she was gone a year and she was gone like 1 year, almost like right when the podcast started kind of thing. She left. She had to go to Georgia with her family. And when she came back, the first call she made was to us can she get her job back? And of course, we loved her. Yeah. Karina. Shout out to Karina. But one of the things that it was kind of fun, we knew she was coming about a month ahead of time. And we were like, so she's going to come in thinking she knows who we are because she worked with us for a couple of years before she left. And we started thinking about it. We were a different company a year ago. And so, well, what has changed in that year? Well, we refreshed our brand. So we've got newer vehicles. We've got a brand new website. We've refreshed our websites. We launched franchising. That was never here. She heard us talk about it. Right. But we didn't have that whole idea of franchising. We had a school for drywall, but we didn't have a whole academy.
There's an entire house in the next room
where we can train our workers and potential franchisees down the road. And so we kind of went through and started looking at all these little things. I mean, she came into the new refreshed break room and the new painted offices, and it was kind of nice because when you're always in it, you don't necessarily appreciate these little tweaks here, these little tweaks there. And frankly, I felt some of our employees were a little underappreciated. Like, come on, man. I got a TV in the break room with your face on it. Yeah, that's cool. Like it. You know what? It takes me a long time to do that.
You will have fun.
You will enjoy this. I will make you sit here and
watch
it.
You.
Mandatory fun. Mandatory fun.
But Karina comes in. She's, oh my gosh, you got a TV in the break room. I was like, yeah, thank you.
You got a break room.
Yeah, we got a break room.
You have a break room. There you go. Right, instead of setting, on bags of drywall. So, yeah,
that never happens. And we have stepped up our food game. So we like to make food for employees. And
stepped up our video game. I know that.
Definitely stepped up our video game.
Yeah.
Part of that was having Tyler Speck.
Yeah.
In one of the early episodes, and he now.
He's moved in.
He's moved in here.
He's moved in.
He's got part of our facility.
He's got the biggest room in the house.
He does.
That's all right.
But we are shooting more videos. We are, I told Bill a year or so ago, I said, listen, we need to evolve from a drywall company to a technology company, to an education company. Because we already have great employees and we want to make sure we can keep the flow of new quality employees coming in. And we want to make sure that we're relevant and viable to our market, whether it's a franchise or our customers. And so having Tyler really pushing us into this next video world to the point that we've got video cameras here. We did a video shoot for a training last Monday where we did a whole training session on just prepping floors and walls and fixtures. And we were able to record the whole thing. We have an online training portal that we're going to upload it to. And so people have access to this, forever, thanks to being able to kind of level up that education piece of it. And plus, it gets some really good footage for, sometimes people they learn better with video.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And our franchisees can see what we do a little bit better because they can see it as opposed to reading it. One of my bigger issues that I'm pointing to you, because people can't see me point to you, Trish.
He's pointing at me.
Yeah.
And it's not the Disney point either.
No, it's not. I have a hard time with people's social media that it's all just generic, happy Father's Day, happy, it's just like, if you own a cleaning company, it's a picture of someone, it's a picture of a vacuum. It's not even the person, it's just a vacuum and a witty statement. And that's why I really love what you've done for us, because we've been able to then show behind the scenes stuff. We're able to talk about real things, like actual before and after pictures, actual reviews from customers, actual pictures of our employees, in a training session, eating breakfast that we made for them, or, little time-lapse footage of our employees doing jobs.
Right, right.
That's what leveling up in social media means to me. And you pushing us to kind of get, it's like, all right, where's the content? I need some more before and after pictures.
Yeah.
I need something, because you just can't grab it. If you're posting with us 2 or 3 times a week, that's a lot of posts to kind of make up. Mm-hmm. And I know that I feel you're not a legit company if you don't have any realness in your social media.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a tough one, right? Is peeling the layers back, right? And like we've talked about before in regards to social media and how it's really it's changed marketing in a way that nothing in the past has ever changed it, right? Because this allows a brand to completely embrace their persona and their personality, and then go one step further and have a social interaction as well as a professional interaction with a client or a potential client.
It's like a conversation that you don't know you're having, okay? Because people know us, they hear us, they see pictures on Facebook and Instagram. And so I've run into people who are friends and acquaintances, and they, oh yeah, I saw that on. And so they're part of the conversation without even speaking their voice.
Yeah. I love it when that happens, right? Because those people that say, hey, I saw that on whatever, probably didn't even like the post. So sometimes we get so stuck on the measurement of it, and we should keep an eye on it, right? But you have to understand, I wrote on my board, what's the power, what's the value of a good marketing decision? And it was like, how do you put a dollar figure on the fact that when somebody sees your post, your brand, or anything from you, and they have a good feeling inside? You don't know what they're really feeling, but that's what branding is. When someone can look at your logo and on the inside, they have a good feeling, dude, you made it. You did something right?
Yeah, and I've seen branding defined as what people understand about you and your company before they've ever met you.
I would say, what do they feel about you before? You know what I'm saying? What do they feel about you after that interaction? What do they feel about you every time they see your content? And that gets pretty deep, on a pretty deep level, but that's what it is. And
well, we know what we do.
Yeah.
They don't know what we do.
Right.
Or they may think they know what we do. I mean, how many times do people have an understanding, well, it's just drywall, right? For us, if I'm granularizing it down just to us home wall, it's just drywall. I can go to Home Depot and buy a sheet of drywall for $12. Why are you charging me $250 to repair that hole? Drywall only costs $12, right? But to see the quality, to see what they expect, to see that, you're getting a warranty, you're getting someone you can trust in your home. It's somebody that will stand up, that'll answer the phone. I mean, one of the things that we hear all the time is people saying, listen, who's going to get the job? The person who answers the phone.
Right.
Because they're always trying to call someone and people don't call them back.
In your industry, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
And if they can, peeling back, as the intro says, they can see behind the veil a little bit, they can see that we're training our employees. They can see that we, my dogs come in and hang out with us, and we've got, breakfast made, and they're training, and, the camaraderie that they have as they wake up in the morning and the sun is rising on our trucks. And those are kind of cool things that I like seeing them. And if I like seeing them, I'm thinking that some people out there are
Absolutely. Because they can all relate to it, right? But yeah, and those are the things that I appreciate that you guys have embraced. And from my experience in the businesses that I've worked with and the clients that I have, the more they embrace that concept, even though they're not where they want to be yet, right? The more they embrace that, the better they do. And they get there, right? They get there. So it's pretty cool. So I'm curious, what advice would you give Bill and James 1 year ago?
Wow,
That's a good one.
that's a very deep question.
I would advise Bill to make sure you listen to James more. Oh, no.
You heard it here first, folks.
Bill would advise James to stop spending money.
Can you hear me rolling my eyes?
Yes.
I'll tell you, a year ago was weird because we were still kind of COVID-y. We were still
Yeah,
kind of
it's true.
coming out of that bunch. And I think leaning into employee recognition more sooner. I mean, we've always done it. I probably would have leveled up our situation earlier. I probably would have done it we really couldn't do it until we got the studio. But
Yeah.
there are other ways to do it.
So business growth happens along a continuum. A series of events happens, and then another series of events, and they build on each other. And I think a year ago, we had a pretty good understanding, even though I wouldn't say it was a written plan, but we had a pretty good idea where we were going to be going in the next year.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff we only knew in general terms, only understood vaguely. But as the year kind of rolled on, we got clarification on a lot of things and got a lot better. And leveling up was a big part of it all across the board.
Yeah, I agree. And frankly, it wasn't until April last year we started really digging into the franchise stuff. And for the longest time, we were like, you were on me like, we got a franchise. I'm like, I know, but we got to build processes first. We got to make sure that we have everything documented. And so I really feel that the time was right to start the process when we did it.
Yeah.
We talked about franchising for 10 years. And in the process, I couldn't franchise a company that had the Hannah Montana van, right? So I had to, and I couldn't franchise a brand that didn't have the trademark dialed in and didn't have the right website, the domain name. And
Well, the trademark was really big.
that was big. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I remember
big.
that. And, people get hung up on that. Like I know of other businesses that have had to completely rebrand themselves a couple of times because of the trademark issue.
Yeah, we
Our
had a
first
sticky
lawyer, yeah.
we had a sticky issue with the branding, and the first attorney we used said, "Yeah, you may want to just consider just rebranding yourself, renaming the company." We're like,
Absolutely not.
We got turned down twice for our first trademark, whether it's his fault or not. I mean, he was just like, listen, you don't want to have a third time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what do we do? Do we just forget it? Do we forget our dreams of franchising? Do we forget, just rebrand? I'm like,
yeah, that's not as easy as it may sound.
Oh, I know.
do you realize what to me,
Do you have any idea?
our brand, the hole in the wall logo, and that to me is just
It's foundational to who we
identity.
are.
Yeah.
it's priceless. I'm not gonna give that up. And luckily, through another contact friend of ours, Justin Myers, we found a great trademark attorney.
That's crazy.
And she's like, prepare yourself, James, because they're going to turn you down the first time through. He said, I get it. I understand. I just got to get it done. She says, we'll work on it. And the first time through using this other attorney, we got in.
Wow.
They accepted our trademark.
Yep.
She just made just the right tweaks, and we had, we
Gotcha.
changed a few classifications, and we got in.
Was
And
a happy day too when
I
we
tell you
learned
what,
that.
I mean,
Yeah, I remember that.
That happy dance was real that day for sure.
Yeah.
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 And I remember along about that time, we had brought Mike Elliott in as the general manager of Orlando. So it relieved a lot of the day-to-day
Yeah.
from you specifically because you had been running the day-to-day here. And then we were able to lean into the franchising a bit.
Yeah.
And we still are. I mean, we want to be the best we can at it.
Sure.
Obviously. No one starts out an expert. But boy, our heart's in the right place. And as I look at what we have and as I begin to understand what others who start franchising have and how far advanced we are of them already at this point, I'm like, man, I'm really encouraged.
Yeah, I got a little nugget from one of our franchise consultants. He's like, you don't understand, you're about 3 years more advanced than some of your competitors in the franchise market. Where they were 1 year in, you guys are like 3 years in. No one had a process we literally have a written process for everything in the company.
Yeah.
And we literally have it documented so it's online, accessible via anyone's cell phone.
Yeah.
And
we actually hired one of our guests,
Yeah.
Bonnie, to help when we decided to compile all that into a training program
Yeah.
for our own employees, number one, but number
Yeah.
two, when franchisees come in.
Yeah.
this way, I asked her, I go, hey, Bonnie, B Power Consulting,
Yeah.
right? And one of your clients too, I think.
Yep.
I said, Bonnie, I'm trying to find someone that could help us because we're good business guys. We can do drywall, but I'm not I'm not a writer of manuals.
Right,
You know,
right,
I've
right,
done
right.
it, but I need someone to kind of come in and help us. And she said, well, let me look at it. Maybe I can help you. And we sat down with her in the conference room, and she said, yeah, I'll do it. And
Yeah.
she's been like digging in. So we're having expert level training documented. So the handbook that we hand people is going to be this
Yeah.
glorious
Yeah.
piece.
Well, and that was a stated goal early on for franchising. We want to make sure that we have the
Yeah.
best training and support in the industry.
The cool
that's a
thing
nice
with that
goal.
is I've seen what you guys have done for your training for your employees, right? And it is downright impressive, right? So just imagine what you're going to put together.
Let me write that down. That's all right.
Right.
That's number
IMP.
53. Downright impressive.
Downright
Okay,
impressive.
that'll be a soundbite for future certain marketing material. Okay, just got that down.
No, I mean, it really is. I mean, I talk to small businesses all the time. I get a glimpse behind the curtain pretty regularly, and you guys have a rock solid training program for your employees. Imagine what you're going to produce for other business, for your franchisees, for people, right?
Yeah.
Because not only, do you know how to do drywall? You figured out how to run a business, right? You know the pitfalls. You're going to put all that in. It's all there, right? That's just really
What's
cool.
fun is that we're just starting. Like we literally are just starting. Like the training video we did on Monday, the training class we did on Monday, that is one of dozens of classes we already
Sure.
planned. No one understands the art of prepping a room. What does that mean to prep a room? Well, we have our 3 C's that cover complete clean here in the company. It's our mantra. We have it stickered on every vehicle. We've got a plaque on the walls. It's a big deal to us because every time we have a mistake or an issue, we can
Trace it right
trace
back.
it right
Yeah.
back. Someone didn't follow. Cover, complete, clean. Well, number one is cover. Being able to cover. I sound like the video. Cover. That Tyler did for us. But being able to prep a room is important. So most of the expense we have in materials is not drywall.
Right.
It's
protecting the home.
plastic and tape
And paper
and paper
things
and
required to cover.
all the things that it takes to cover your home. Because unlike new construction where you can make a mess and then just sweep it up later,
Right. Yeah.
we're
get
in someone's
clean. Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
They got carpet, they've got a piano,
Yeah.
they've got Tiffany vase, they got
Yeah.
leather couches. And so we have to figure out how to
Yeah.
make sure we can do our job 100%, but still leave it right.
Yeah.
So training and making sure they know how to cover and cover with a purpose, because you could spend hours covering, which we want them to spend time covering, because we all say internally that an extra 5 minutes of covering will save you 30 minutes of cleaning
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the job. But they need to be able to do it effectively, and they need to be able to do it
In a timely
in
manner.
a timely manner and in the proper way. So something as simple as one of the things I didn't even realize we wanted is you've got a towel bar in your bathroom and you have a repair above the towel bar on the wall in your bathroom. Well, you don't want drywall overspray on that towel bar. You can't prep the wall off because then you create hard lines and it doesn't look very good. So we have a technique that Mike Elliott was able to demonstrate on video how to wrap the towel bar.
And it took about a minute.
Took about a minute talking through it, the way he puts the tape on the thing and he wraps the plastic around. I mean, I didn't even know that was an art form, and it's an art form. And we now documented it. It's online.
Yeah.
It's there forever. So our
Right.
guys know how to prep a towel bar and prep a sink and a toilet. And you go into someone's house and they got a ceiling fan on the ceiling, but you got a ceiling repair around the ceiling fan. What are you going to do? Well, we're not electricians, so we got to be careful not to do certain things. So we have to train them how
Right.
to. If we can't remove the ceiling fan, we can take the blades off and we can wrap them a certain way and make sure you don't lose the screws and make sure you
Right,
don't
right,
damage the
right.
blades when you take them off. And there's all these little tricks and techniques that we've done and we've learned over the years that we now get to document video. So we just started. I mean, we have so much written and we have so much more that's going to go. So
Yeah.
the first franchisee, the first group of them are going to be, super excited to see what they have. But man, franchise number 50 is going to have,
Yeah.
a YouTube channel of nothing but training videos.
Right.
Ready to start your own business? How would you like a jumpstart? Hole in the Wall Drywall Repair is now offering franchise opportunities for strong entrepreneurs. When you franchise with Hole in the Wall, we help you get up, running, and ready to start generating revenue fast. You get access to our comprehensive training program, continued support, and our proven business model that has allowed us to experience explosive growth. Achieve financial success while providing a valuable service to your community. Take the first steps towards achieving your entrepreneurial dreams. Go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.
So, where do you see yourself in this podcast in a year?
You know, I haven't even stopped thinking about that, but
Or what do you hope to see?
my initial reaction is more of the same. I think I'd like to learn to ask better questions. One of the things that I have learned about on the podcast is being a better listener, not just asking a question, but also listening to what somebody has and then, developing a good follow-up question. That's a bit of an art form. Obviously with franchising taking a bigger role in our business, I think I'd like to see the podcast lean a little more towards the franchisees. And there may even be a separate podcast at some time. It could be, 2 podcasts running now. Because one of the stated goals with the podcast in the beginning was to allow people who don't know us, say a franchisee or someone who's thinking about becoming a franchisee of Hole in the Wall, is to get to know us.
Right.
And we really are pretty much what you hear on the podcast. Yeah. We're very serious about a somewhat silly business.
Mm-hmm. When you're always like, this is just the dumbest business.
It's drywall. It's just,
but it's simple. It's needed. Like we all need it, right?
Yeah.
Every one of us need it.
Yeah, it's true.
So I see the next evolution for the podcast is we're only audio currently. So as of this podcast, we only do audio podcasts. I have purchased cameras for our studio, fix the lighting, figure out the best right angles because I've got a head for radio. So trying to figure out how to make me not look ginormous. But I would like to launch a YouTube channel or at least add to our YouTube channel the whole podcast playlist. And whether it's the whole podcast or not, or whether it's just clip-its or snips or, because we can run 20 minutes to 45 minutes, but we could just do highlight reels for social media.
Yeah.
Figure out ways to do that with video or with just audio, with just little clips of some kind. That to me is kind of the next level game to leverage some of the stuff we have on the podcast and turn it into more manageable, usable content that people who may not have an opportunity to listen to a full half-hour podcast can still get some really good nuggets and some good wisdom from it. My intention is never just to not monetize. I'm not really out there to try and figure out how to be the next Joe Rogan. I just want to get information out there, which I think which actually is a benefit for us because a lot of the people who come on the podcast, when I explain them what we're doing, we're just trying to spread knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they just, well, I love that.
Yeah. And I love that the content that we provide through the podcast is something that every individual business owner that's on the podcast can use for their own purposes, for their own advertising, for their own social media. Mm-hmm. I love that. It's a unique piece of their advertising and social media that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right after we did the last podcast that I was on, actually I had 2 other podcasts drop right after that. Mm-hmm. And I've had 2 weeks after that, I had a handful of people, whether email, phone call, text, in person. They're like, oh my God, I just listened to the podcast you were on. I'm like, which one?
Which one?
I don't know, the guy.
Because you're in big demand, right?
They're like, the guy? I'm like,
the guy.
Which one?
If it's the guys, there's more than one, then it's us.
So, but like all of them like referenced a different one is what they were talking about. One was like about, my military background and, school the kids, all that stuff. Another one was about marketing and like, it's such great advice and I didn't think about that. And so it was,
You're like a professional podcast guest.
I know, right?
Well, James was like, you should start a podcast. I'm like, ew, why? How about I just be a professional guest?
It's going to mooch in on ours. I see how that works.
Yuck.
You know what, though? You're representative of one of multiple really great women that we've had on the podcast. I think about Bonnie. Oh, my gosh. And her story was terrific.
Oh, fabulous.
Just bring your tissues almost, and how she's overcome the obstacles in her life. Yeah. Wow, what a great lady.
I think I look at it, I'm not sure why I have this perspective, but as an old, overweight white man in America, if there's anyone in this world that's had some privilege, although I don't feel I've always had it, it's me. if there's anyone who's had a harder time in business, it's the female entrepreneur,
Yeah.
or it's a minority entrepreneur, or both. Like Wendy Grant, she's both.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's highlighting a veteran.
Yeah.
Now I've got a veteran female entrepreneur in the podcast. And listen, all people are welcome, right? I mean, we have lots of people from all, but I just gravitate to some really impressive.
Yeah.
They've all been. I'm thinking about Lee Phillips, great guest.
Lee is incredible.
She is Leonidas Design Studio. Man, and she's got a growing, thriving business. I'm thinking about Shannon Musgrave.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
She's got a heart of gold. I mean, geez, if you got
she really does.
You got some junk going on in a deal. She's the person you want.
And more recently, we had Jenna LeBruno, a realtor that I've known for several years. Met in a BNI many years ago. Annette Aviles.
We just had Annette. On there.
I mean, it's like. What?
Annette's fantastic. She has an amazing story too. And I'm not knocking other title people, but listen, title's boring, right? And Annette just makes it amazing.
Yeah, she's really excited about it.
Yeah. And she just really has this incredible dynamic personality. And she's in title. If I had just met her at a party and we talked, I never would have guessed that she was in title at all, ever, right? Maybe advertising or sales or something, but never title.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then you got Bonnie. You've got, these are just amazing, just the females, not including the veterans like Tony Busby, who his wife also owns one of their Great Florida franchises. And, being able to have the veteran-owned businesses, Brian Awesome with Awesome Tech, he came on board. And it's like, these were really quality people that I wouldn't have met and I wouldn't have understood. And getting to know them through just listening to them.
Isn't it amazing, though, that people are willing to come on and open up about their lives and their businesses and share their victories and their struggles? This is one of the things about the podcast I really like.
Yeah. Who would have, really, I was worried. I had the first 12 guests lined up when we launched. And I was like, all right, I'm out. I'm out. I'm not sure who else to do it. What do I do?
I remember that. Yeah. And it's interesting you say that. So that segues into a question I had.
Okay.
Alex, I'll break it up into two. In the next year, it's the one guest you really would love to have on here.
Wow.
I have an idea. I want your wives on here.
Oh,
we had mentioned that.
We did think about that
recently.
I want the ladies on here. They have a very different perspective. I want the ladies on here.
I actually don't hate that idea.
We should. They're not going to listen to this, so we could talk about them all day long. I think we should do that because, first of all, rarely this happens, but our wives get along, and so we really the two couples that we are as odd couples Bill and I can be. We actually get along quite well, and our wives get along quite. I mean, we were on a text chat this morning. Thank you, Mary, for having my wife buy a new coffee maker, because we just kind of get along. And they have been on the outside looking in. Many a time, I know Mary's looked at Bill, kind of going, "You're nuts, but I love you."
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Kelly, on the other hand, you left what job, and you're going to do what? I mean, okay, you're nuts. I love you.
Yeah.
And being able to support us through weird times and hard times. And so that'd be a great show.
Yeah.
Could be.
That whole statement that, behind a great man, a good man is a great woman, right? And that is so true for you guys. I think that just enables you guys to be, you're great guys anyway, but that's just really, those women are fantastic. And
they're
they
pretty awesome.
Really are.
Yeah.
They really are awesome. Can you imagine if it was not the case? Like,
I've had it.
How would that right? You have, but if you think about, extrapolate that out over some time, like to what extent would that inhibit?
Well, I already kind of had Mary preconditioned because I come up with some kooky ideas through the years. But in fact,
bless her,
if she's patient, she would let me explain it, and if it made sense, listen, she's the brains of this outfit. I'll tell you that. But if it made sense, she said okay.
She's a school teacher for elementary school students, so I think her patience. She's had some experience.
Yeah. No, I think that would be a good one. I don't know who this person is, but I know who I really want to have on the podcast this coming year. Our first franchisee.
Ooh. I like that. Oh my gosh.
And get their take on how it was getting involved with a hole in the wall and what their story is, and then what their hopes and dreams are. That and having multiple. This is an ongoing conversation, hopefully with dozens of people.
Yeah.
Well, we've started the documentation of our franchise journey, part of why the podcast started. So literally episode 2, 3, and 4 were all franchise centric.
Right.
We've done 7 of just that playlist alone. The last one being with Will Nicoloso.
Great guy, by the way. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed meeting him, getting to know him.
Yeah, he's hard at work for us right now. I love it.
Nice.
He's great. Although he's going to Italy for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
We'll miss him.
You're doing something right.
He will be missed.
Yeah. But I agree with you. That's a great guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to have our first 5, just
Can you imagine how spoiled the first franchise? Like, so spoiled.
Yeah, no, they're
Yeah.
getting they're going to be tired of hearing
so
from us.
spoiled. So spoiled. Leave me alone, guys.
we actually have one of our existing employees who's not ready to buy a franchise because I really want.
Yeah.
I think this is my future. My wife and I want to move, and someday within a year or 2, we want
There's no bigger compliment than that.
Yeah, you know what? You're exactly right.
yeah, and he's going to be a great
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
He'll be a good one.
He'll be a
Yeah.
great business owner.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that day, and then to be able to get him into his own franchise, his own place somewhere,
Yeah.
and
And watch him succeed.
absolutely, and then
Oh,
bring
how
and
exciting.
then bring him on the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh.
he's not even from. I mean, he's American, but he's he's not white like me, so he's just like a minority,
Yeah.
hardworking,
And
guy.
I don't know if you had Steve Fulmer on here to talk about
No.
SBA loans and stuff like that?
Not
Because there's
yet.
this whole avenue for Yeah.
I have cigars with Steve like every month.
because there's this whole avenue for minorities to get into these opportunities,
Okay.
Yep.
Steve.
Yeah.
Former. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
He'd be a great guest too.
Yeah.
He's going to be our new banker, whether he knows it or not.
Yeah,
so
he's a good
he'll
guy.
be
He is a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
And he's a veteran as well, right?
Oh, yeah, Army, but we don't hold that against him. Not too often. Only on Tuesdays. Today's Tuesday.
It's true.
So poor Bill, he's like, she's saying mean things.
But it's just about Steve.
We want to spread the love.
But Steve's also in FAVOB, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's my vice chair.
Yeah.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is. He's my vice chair. He's fantastic. Yeah, I really appreciate him quite a lot. But just for the audience, you understand, I'm on my best behavior. I've not said one potty word. There's been no bleeping. Probably why I shouldn't be allowed to have my own podcast.
Let's mark that explicit mark
It's
on
like,
the.
everything's like bleep, bleep.
Yeah,
bleep,
that's usually part of our pre-show prep because a surprising amount of guests are really free with colorful words.
It's called flavor.
We have this.
Tyler and I were joking about doing a podcast, and we're like, we'll just bleep random words and not bleep the curse words, right? We'll just
Yeah.
confuse people. We'll bleep marketing every time we say that. Right?
You know, one of the fun things about doing the podcast, though, and we're meeting often somebody new every week, is they've never been on a podcast.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's fun to kind of coach them up and tell them how to
Yeah.
use the headset and the mic and kind of what to expect and, share with them. It's literally just a conversation.
Yeah.
It can be intimidating to show
It
up.
absolutely
And you're in a
can.
smaller room, and there's acoustic treatment on the walls, and
There's two
There's
guys
a mic
with
in your
giant
face.
heads.
Like,
Mic
how
in
many
your face,
people, how much experience do you have with a mic in your face?
I can wear
right?
headphones.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason why I've not done video yet is that I don't want to make our guests self-conscious.
That would
Yeah.
that make us self-conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I know what it makes me. Imagine someone. Oh, I'm on video too. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
No, we have faces made for radio.
absolutely.
That means you just have to have guests that are very good looking.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a benefit. That's a plus.
helps.
So, but that's been fun to coach the guests up. And one of the things that I discovered personally, as we got going on it and I got more comfortable, it takes 5 or 10 minutes to get used to a microphone and wearing a headset because you just hear yourself differently.
Yeah.
But without fail, everyone just gets wrapped up in the conversation. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, they're no longer worried about the headset or the
And
microphone.
they all say, I know I said it the first time but I sit in the next room. So I listen to folks when they're finished and they all like, oh my gosh, that was fun. That was really easy. That
Right. And then
wasn't
they're like,
hard.
wait a minute, that was 40 minutes?
Yeah.
What? I thought it was like
It was like
20.
10 minutes. Yeah, I know. Now I understand why, Joe Rogan goes for 2-3 hours. To them, it probably feels like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of other podcasts, what guests, and we talked about who would you want to have on the next year, but like big picture, ultimately life goal, who would you just kill to have on the podcast?
Life goal. Well, it'll never happen, but we'll speak it out into the existence. I love, one of the things we do a lot is we help these young men. We have men and women that work for us, but we have a lot of young men that just, they're having a hard time kind of launching. They're having a hard time kind of figuring out their focus in life. And then no one dreams about becoming a drywall guy when they're young.
Right.
But they find us or we find them and they become part of our, our world. And we're able to show them, that there is a better way out there than doing silly, stupid things and getting in trouble. And one person who really talks this a lot is Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
And I really just resonate with some of the things he says in encouraging young men to be men.
Yeah.
And we do live in a society where we want to be sensitive to all cultures and all races and sexes, but we still can't forget that we still have to be a man.
Yeah.
And these young men, I got a young man right now who just had a baby and his girlfriend, and they're trying to figure out how to make the ends meet. And I want him to be the best man he can be for his girlfriend, hopefully future wife, and his brand new beautiful baby girl. We have our children. They're not children now; they're boys. Young men that work for us. I want Charles and Zane and David to be the best men that they can be, not just for us as a hole in the wall, but for
themselves,
their friends, and for their spouse, and for their future spouse, and for for themselves. Yeah. And I think that someone like Jordan would be somebody that I would just pie in the sky. Jordan, chat out, come on in. I'll make you lunch. It'll be all meat because he is on the carnivore
That's right.
diet. Yeah.
Just make the side of broccoli. We'll do the stir fry. I'll take the broccoli too. You guys can eat it or not eat it, but I want
We do a great beef and broccoli.
It is amazing. It is amazing.
How about you, Bill? Who's your?
I don't have anybody specific, but I think I would like to meet some more franchisee type podcasters to get on the circuit, where you're on other people's podcast and you can reciprocate and have them back.
Yeah.
And I think that they would bring some really good contact. I guess I'm thinking him.
Tim Proctor, you got to have him on here. He does a podcast too, very similar to what you guys. Yeah,
absolutely.
He's Air Force veteran, great guy. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Tim Roberts, the regional owner of our BNI chapter, his parents live in town, so I'm trying to get him on.
Oh,
here
nice.
as well.
Yeah, no, I love that idea.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't want to leave our small business history behind. But I want to move more towards franchising. I like the industry. I'm excited about what I've learned about it in the past year, and I'd like to meet more people.
It's great.
In it.
It's it's a really good it's a valid path for scalability, right? And so when it comes to why do you have onboarding processes? Why do you write down all of your processes? Why do you write down your training and blah blah blah? Why do you do all that stuff? And I hate it. It's horrible. Like the day you walked in and you rolled out your piece of paper and you showed me the entire process from the moment that a client calls the office and what happens, right? And I was just like, oh my God, I need a James. And
everyone needs a James.
Everybody needs I need a James in my office, right? So, but just that meticulous, but at least for me, when I see that stuff, I'm like, gosh, I really need to have that stuff. Or that's really cool. That's a really awesome tool. What you're really saying is that's going to help me scale, right? And there's a couple of paths to scaling.
Well, the imperative thing is you can't scale without it.
Exactly, right? And there's two paths to scaling, right? It's the corporate model, meaning you, just like what you guys tried in Birmingham, right?
Company stores,
right? Yeah, or franchising. So it limits your risk is a little bit smaller, but you have to have the entire package together when you franchise in order to be truly successful. Whereas with the corporate model, you can kind of still piece it together a little bit as you grow.
That's kind of why I like the franchise model, because you don't have to be wealthy to buy a business.
Yeah.
And I was just at breakfast. We were done yesterday. We were talking, and it's funny how you think you got to be a millionaire to buy a business. Well, obviously you can't. And to buy a hole-in-the-wall franchise, because we're building a new landing page for our sales site, right? And I want to highlight the fact that it's low barrier to entry. Like you can come on board with not a ton of money, but it is super scalable.
Right.
you can very easily.
Yeah, and there's financial help available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have a ton of money. Well, you come on board with enough to get started. You start making some money.
Yeah.
Buy another territory. Buy a truck.
Yeah.
Scale.
Yeah.
And you want to grow. You hire some more employees. You train them. You buy.
And some franchises even have like payment plans. You know what I mean? It's so much, SBA loans and grants. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is just huge.
Yeah. And having friends like Steve around, he can listen with a credit score of 6, whatever. People can get an SBA loan.
Yeah.
And those who do that, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. When you build something out of nothing, which you guys realize you did, and I'm doing that too, is you sit back at the end of the day, or at the end of a milestone, right? Like, I like to stop and look like, where was I a year ago, and take stock of what happened, right?
Right.
And just like we did in this conversation, and you take stock of the sweat equity that you put into this, just to discover what is the absolute right, best, process for something. It's not just the one that takes the least amount of time, because what if you used a cheap product? It didn't matter that you covered it well.
Right.
You used the wrong tape. Well, you just ruined somebody's floor, and that cost you $35,000.
Yeah.
Right. So
Or the grand piano.
Yeah. So where do you cut the corners financially? Where do you cut the corners? Because the cheapest is not always the best. Then the most expensive is not always the best. Right?
Well, you know what? Essentially, that's a daily endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Constantly looking for small improvements.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done. And to the point where we really have a dynamic process now for that. But you're talking about bootstrapping. And we're down in the trenches so much that once in a while, when you stick your head up. Now, I was here a weekend, and no one's in our complex where our offices are. And one of the things I like to do when I'm here and someone's with me, I'll back up. Like I'm leaving. We've done whatever we're doing at the shop, and we're leaving for the afternoon. And I just back up, and along the alley beside our shop is
all the trucks,
8 or 9, 10 trucks. And I go, Mary, kids, there was nothing. There was just nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
I will say, taking my trash to the dumpster down, because I tend to work later than you guys do. And as the victim of, just my business, the way it is right now, and I take my trash out at the end of the week, and I walk down there Friday night, evening, whatever, everybody's gone, because you guys are smart and you leave early on Friday. And I take a moment, I stop, I'm like, man, that's just cool.
Yeah.
That's just cool.
It never gets old.
Yeah.
From an ownership perspective, it just makes my heart swell.
Yeah.
We got a new sign over our door, right? We actually switched front doors, put a window in the door, got a graphic on the window. And I walk by that graphic and I go, yeah, I really like this.
Yeah.
I really like this.
Yeah. It's good.
And we have the nice new trucks with the nice new refresh logo.
The graphic redesign was
that Andy
great.
Lonzak of Creative Image Wraps did for us, who was also on podcast number, I'll have to tell you here.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned it once. It's interesting.
And it's really impressive to kind of see that.
Yeah.
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 I'm pretty happy about it. Because we've got now 5 of these warehouses.
Yeah.
And whoever thought that we would have our own training wing, our own production wing.
And a conference room.
A
fancy, snazzy conference room. How cool is that? Yeah.
And a training facility.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
I got this new camera in the conference room. It's a pan, tilt, zoom kind of thing. So we can conference and train from all over the world.
There's not many companies that would build half a house inside of a warehouse and make sure like the walls are smooth and perfect, and then go punch walls in it. But that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It won't be beautiful next week, but it's beautiful right now.
No,
but
we'll make it beautiful again.
At the end,
at the end of the training program, right? It will be beautiful again.
So we give tours when we have guests and people come through, and they're like, do you need volunteers to punch holes in walls? Like we should
Rage room. Well, then you make money on the beginning and the end, right?
Oh, I like it. Ooh.
See?
Seriously? All right. Tickets, kids. So give us
Rage
a call.
room. I like this. We could hole-in-the-wall rage room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, maybe your podcast guest would, give you $20 to punch a hole in the wall. Right? I'm serious.
I don't want the liability.
This has legs. Sign a waiver. Listen, I go ride horses, and all I have to do is sign a waiver, and I can't do nothing. So, I'll leave with an observation. The last thing that I wanted to say, I'll leave with an observation. You guys can comment, and then we'll just see where the conversation goes. But there was, after that, it's not much I wanted to say. But this morning driving to work, I was mentally preparing for this conversation today. And I was just kind of taking stock of all of our conversations we've ever had and conversations I've had with clients. And of course, in marketing, I have to spend a tremendous amount of effort to get to know my client, their business, their people, their customer. Like, what is the real value? What does my client really do for them? Right. Mm-hmm. So at Boylestown, it really is amazing because every one of us are in the people business.
Yeah.
Yeah, first and foremost.
Every one of us is in the people business, and marketing really is about being in the people business. And you guys do drywall, but you're in the people business.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. So it ties back to that. It's just a dumb business. Mm-hmm. It is, but not really. And so I had that thought, and then I got to work and I looked at my phone, and somebody had written you guys a recommendation on Facebook, and it was really, they named the tech by name, which was fantastic. Right. So I'm like,
love it when that happens.
I'm like, I am sharing this, right? They're like, they were on time. They were fantastic in our home. We have another quote in the works right now. Right. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. So I shared that on Facebook, and one of the things that we say, and that I tell you guys, and you say it, right? Because you understand this, but like, how do we get that out there to permeate is what is always top of mind for me. And that is that you understand that you're not drywall repair techs or a company. You are guests in someone's home.
Yeah.
And you are there to leave it better than you found it.
Yeah.
And that's,
often to bring relief to them.
Yeah.
Mental relief.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That was one part of one of our videos that we talk about. You say it, Bill. It says they have trusted us to come in their home.
Yeah.
Don't break that trust.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really is one of those things that we hear it a lot, but to see it on video, it's like, it's so true. Because the shot that you say that in, it's Scott repairing
someone's closet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, think about your closet. Just close your eyes and imagine your closet. My closet is a disaster. Right. And so
that's funny he says that. Yeah.
Right. To let somebody in my closet, that's a lot of trust.
It's funny you said that because like literally 10 days ago, I was standing there looking at my closet. I'm like, shit, beep. Mark time. That looks like crap. And which of my girlfriends should I call over just to sit on the bed and be like, you do not need that dress. I've never seen you in that. That can go to Goodwill. Fold that up. It goes over here, right? Nobody wants to clean their closet out by themselves. But it's funny you mentioned that, right? Because it's just like, it's some things you don't want to do.
Yeah. And we talk about, we're in people's homes. And we go to places that they don't even invite
intimate spots in people's homes.
Like I wouldn't let my mother and father in my closet.
Right.
I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Hey, come on, look at my closet.
Yeah.
But yet here, knock.
Yeah.
Hey, we're holding the wall. Here, come on, look at my closet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
Yeah, their friends and family are never allowed to that part of their home. But we don't, after having met them for 15 seconds, we're now right there.
And then you extrapolate that out to, some folks in society have, anxiety challenges and some other mental health challenges that they're working with, PTSD and things like that. And their home is their safe haven. Mm-hmm. So sometimes having people in their home just creates a level of anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And then you have these other people that just really don't care, and that's totally great, but not everybody, right, is like that. For some people, it's a hurdle. It's really
a lot of times we're on the tail end of a tragedy, right? So we're on the tail end of a roof leak or a plumbing leak.
What about your Gold Star mother?
Mm-hmm, absolutely, the Gold Star mother, Mama D, Brenda Smith, where her son, her only son, who passed away in Iraq, she had his bedroom like his spot. And she never touched it. And then all of a sudden the ceiling collapsed on the bed. And we had to go in and we literally had to pick up all the insulation and drywall off the bed where his metals were.
I don't know if we talked. We haven't even talked about this on the podcast.
We're going to hopefully do a little marketing thing down the road for her. But
that's an amazing story. Mm-hmm. And, her son passed, he was a Marine. He was killed in action. Early 2000s, and she's a Gold Star mom. I think it was her only child.
Yeah. That's what I remember.
And he passed, and as a mother, I don't know. So to lose your only child, so all she has is the veteran community.
Yeah.
That's the only connection she has to her son. So when I heard about that, it was a crazy story. I got a random text from a friend that was like, hey, there's this elderly Air Force veteran in the hospital. He fell and hurt his hip. He's really sad. They don't know if he's going to make it. You know, could we have some veterans go and just visit him? I was like, oh my gosh, I have nothing going. Sunday, I can't not go, right? I'd like, how do you not go? And I was like, all right, well, we're doing this on Sunday morning. You can come or you're not. He's Baron's like, yeah, I'm coming. Duh.
Yeah.
So we hop in the car. We go meet this person we never met before. And Mama D was one of the volunteers who came. And, you know, afterwards, we're walking out of the hospital. And this woman who, you know, lost her son, she's giving.
Yeah.
She went to the hospital to tell this elderly Air Force veteran that she's proud of him and she's happy for his service. She didn't talk about her son to him at all whatsoever, right? And so as we're leaving, she's talking to, you know, David Rubin about the house. And yeah, someone's coming to help the drywall. It's supposed to come, you know, a handyman is supposed to come this afternoon to fix the drywall. And I was like, well, let me know if that doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Because the folks at Hole in the Wall can, you know, help. And I did a bunch of vetting of that, you know, and I came to you. I'm like, hey, no obligation whatsoever, but I wanted to let you know if you wanted to. If you can't, I totally understand. You know, I don't know how bad this is.
Well, at least we could have done
a
a really good job for them.
Yeah.
Right. And so, so David Rubin of Hero Strong, reached out to me, thanks to you. And he was also like, listen, I don't want to impose, but I was like, well, let's just go look at it. Let's just go see. And I got some pictures of it. And it was just a pop seam and the drywall started to come down and it was a rental home. It was really a weird situation. And I think we can fix it. Yeah. Let's try and fix it. And so we're going to, you know, we're going to go in there, look at it. And if we can fix it, we will. And so we send one of our techs in and he's kind of looking at it going, well, that's actually a little more extensive than the picture showed. And he starts pushing on the ceiling a little bit, kind of, wow, that's not secured at all, I'm afraid. And she had all of the medals and all the news clippings. His name is Antonio. Yep. And he turned around to talk to her because she hadn't been in that room for a minute. The ceiling collapsed right in front of our technician.
Oh, my goodness.
The whole thing just fell down.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, my goodness. And so we had to sit there and sort it all out. So it was supposed to be, you know, a small repair. It ended up being, we ended up replacing almost the entire ceiling in the room with insulation, and we painted both the walls and the ceilings. Wow. And I say all that not because I care about accolades, but just that the amount of relief and the amount of just, I guess relief is a good word for it, to help Mama D through that situation. Yeah. If we weren't there to help her, she would have been really struggling.
Yeah. What if it had been a handyman that just didn't have the skill level, right?
Sure.
You know, could have helped, meant well, but just didn't have the skill level, right? And so when you guys went in there, you know, you repaired it properly. Yeah. But it's such an honor to be at the right place at the right time and be able to help somebody.
You have no way of knowing, but yesterday the employee that actually did the repairs was in the shop, and he has a set of dog tags with a photo of that Marine on it.
Are you serious?
He's wearing the dog tag of that Marine.
Yeah, and he's no longer with us, but one of the techs isn't. But that time, spending that time with Mama D, changed his life.
Oh,
I mean, like pictures of the Purple Heart flag and his dog tag, and it really touched him. And just her even giving back to my technicians was so the fact that we could do that, it doesn't matter what it costs. You know, it's one of those things. It wasn't like we're building a house for. We just fixed a room for. Yeah. So it's easy for us to do, and we're happy to do it. But it just goes to prove that we're in people's homes who have had tragedies.
Really private. And it's not just a room, like that's a shrine to her only child. Yeah. Right. So to her, you know, she wakes up and she lives this every day. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we like to say is it's not just a hole in the wall, it's a hole in your home. Yeah. Because to us, we did 1,800 plus jobs last year. You know, that's jobs, that's not holes. That's just actual individual jobs. Some jobs last a couple hours.
Some jobs have 30 holes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just, you know, so let's just say on average, we do somewhere between 3,000 to 6,000 holes, right? it's really easy for us as a business that does nothing but hole repair, drywall repair, to make it easy to just, it's just another hole. That's another hole. But we have to constantly remind ourselves, and we remind our employees that we're in people's homes. This is probably their largest investment they'll ever do. And they live in that area. And we got to make sure we respect that home. And so finding the right people, getting them trained properly so we can make sure that we cover and we take care of their home the way they want to, and that we leave that house better than we got there is imperative to us. Whether it's Mama D or whether it's a flood victim who we had to go in and do 300 feet of flood cut. That's someone's house that they live in. Their kids live there, their wives live there, their dogs live there, and honoring that's important to us. And so it is a stupid job. This is just drywall. It's just so stupid.
Yeah.
Until it's not.
Until it's not. That's a really, it's just drywall until it's not. You're totally right about that, right? I don't know where you guys were when my 3 boys were growing up because, oh my goodness.
Boys do knock holes in drywall, don't they?
Dallas went through a stage when he was 2. I don't know what was going on with this child, but he would bite the corner.
We have a lot of dogs that do that.
He would bite the.
Is he part canine?
Could be. I have no idea. He would just be against the wall, look at you, cute, smile, and yank a bite. I had chew marks, right? In corners, not like your recessed corners, but your, your corners. Yeah, your outside corners in a super prominent area. The living room.
Well, they're always going to choose a prominent area. Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, what is wrong? It lasted a week. And that kid did so much damage. I was like, I don't even know what to do with this one.
Maybe a mineral deficiency. He just wants some gypsum in his
but it was
diet.
only a week. Like I could get it if it lasted
craving
like
gypsum.
Craving gypsum.
Right? Which I would buy if it lasted more than a week. But it was literally, he did it for a course of 1 week. He did it. And I was just like, you know what? I don't know what the rest of these boys are going to do, but we're going to sit on this for quite some time. Yeah. And it sat like that for years. Yeah. And then when I finally did a full repaint, oh, by the way, he did all that 6 months after I painted the entire inside of the house.
He'd never do it before.
No,
kids. Yeah,
and then that one also took a magic marker. This was before they had Mr. Clean's magic eraser.
Oh, yeah.
Where was that? We need them on the podcast. And then he took a marker and made this huge thing. It's crazy.
We hear the craziest stories. Obviously, we always talk about the crossbow story, the young lady who wanted to the dancing pole and the back, went through the ceiling. But I mean, I have gotten calls from the same homeowner for the exact same repair multiple times.
Well, we've actually had a call from people who have the same dog. Who chewed the corner off again a year later.
The same corner.
Yeah.
Just, okay. All right. Listen, I'll take their money. I'll be happy to help them. And it's important to them, so we're going to do it for them.
Absolutely.
It's reasonable. It's not like it's, ridiculous. You're not price gouging, that's for sure. But yeah. But yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, it leads me to the thought, because one of the things we've been working on is, just new campaigns and new marketing things. And I wanted to thank you, because one of our favorite brand new campaigns that we're trademarking now is the brand new, Love Your Walls Again.
Yeah.
We've been trying to hone in, we fix a hole in the wall without putting a hole in your wallet. That's been out there for years.
That's not a bad one.
It's a good one.
It's not a bad one.
A little wordy, but it's good. It's not a badge. It's not just a hole in the home, a hole in the wall, it's a hole in your home. And we have lots of these.
That's a good one.
They're amazing and they're true.
Yeah.
And then, so we were brainstorming in the office one day, and you just mentioned Love Your Walls Again.
That was good.
That's good.
But the second part of that was some smart person, can't remember who it was, figured out that it fit exactly
in the hole in the logo.
In the hole in the wall logo as a substitute.
No, we have a badge, right? So Love, LOVE, like the same.
I don't remember who that really intelligent person was.
Some handsome elderly fellow. Name sounds like Billiam.
Willie.
So we have a great logo. And so
we
have our attorney trademarking that logo now to get a word mark on it. And it's just one of those evolutionary just kind of things we've evolved with as a company.
Yeah.
And hiring smart people, partnering with really great
And a great
knowledgeable
group
people.
effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
No,
a collaborative effort.
This is the part that people don't realize. Like the hardest thing about marketing is taking something really complex and making it simple. And even just saying that statement sounds overly simplistic. But to take the concept, I mean, let's dissect that, that tagline for a moment. You guys have been in business for 10, 11 years.
Actually, been a bit longer than that.
Is it more than that?
It's probably since 2010.
Yeah, we've been
The hole in the wall thing has been rolling since 2010, and then we incorporated it in 2014.
So
actually.
good 13 years of this, right? 13 years experience in this. And it took 12 years to really create a tagline that the client can be like, instantly understand the emotion behind what you deliver, right?
Yeah.
And it's good when you hear it the first time and you go, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
There was no doubt. I'm like, Trish, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the one we want is it never happened. Well, that's ServPro.
Can't.
I can't still
Like it never even happened.
like it never even happened.
Yeah. But then, and we talked about that, right? And then it was a mental leap to, all right, if it never happened, then, right. And that took months of, just sitting on it, thinking about it. What you guys don't realize is like I go on works and exercise and riding horses and doing all this other stuff. And I'm thinking about your business.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my client's business.
I approve that, by the way.
Right? It's true. And like in my idle time, that is, the creative brain, which, we're largely a creative agency in what we do. And that takes some downtime, right? To just let your brain chew on all that stuff.
Right time. Yeah.
And it took a long time. And I know I did not walk into that meeting with that thought, but I had chewed on this concept for a long time. And we were just dissecting it, and we were talking about the ServPro, and you're just like,
Looks like she's goofing off.
and it
It looks like she's goofing off all the
does.
time. Yeah.
It's part of my talent.
No, that was really brilliant.
Yeah.
Actually, that was really good, Trish.
It was
Yeah.
good. And and the value of a tagline.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I'm like, that is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
That I was able to help you guys.
And it fits with
bring
what we
that.
do because not only do we repair holes and retexture them to look original, but if it's a smooth finish, we refinish that
Yeah.
to look original. And sometimes customers hire us to retexture an entire bathroom or something, and
Yeah.
we want them to love those walls again.
Love
Yeah.
those walls. And as we're going through looking what our avatar is and who's our key demographic, who's the person who calls us the most, and a lot of times it's female, maybe the mom or the wife, and
The
they're
home manager.
The home manager.
Yeah.
But they're in that home
Yeah.
all the time.
All
Yeah.
the time.
And they're
these
seeing it
issues.
all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So they have to make these hard
Yeah.
choices. But quick sidebar, completely unrelated. I giggle because if you're in corporate America, if you're in the world, and all of a sudden you see your coworker like looking at Facebook or social media, you're like, oh, that guy's wasting time. Well, I literally sit right next to somebody.
He sees my screen all day long.
And
Yeah.
she's on Facebook all day long. Trish, are you wasting time? No, that's her job.
For
job.
a living.
She's
Literally
working. She gets to
getting paid to
do.
do this,
She's
yeah.
scrolling Facebook.
Yeah.
It's funny because sometimes I feel bad. I mean, because Bill and I share a joint office in the other room, and there are days that I'm on Facebook,
Yeah.
but I'm a part of so many different groups, restoration
Yeah.
groups and drywall groups.
And you feel bad?
Well, just because I'm like,
That's good. It's not necessary, but it's good.
But it's just like, he thinks I don't want, or my employees walking
I
the
don't
door.
think that at all.
I know you don't, but I really, because my screen faces the door.
Yeah.
So if one of our employees walks in and I'm on Facebook, it's, oh man.
Research, buddy.
He thinks
Research.
I'm farting
Yeah.
around on Facebook. I don't care that much, but
Yeah.
it does stick in my head.
Yeah.
Because I remember back in corporate America when I was there.
Oh, yeah.
If you're on social media, I mean, heck, the IT guy's back there monitoring your.
Well, that's all different
clicks.
now. Now that the news page experience is out there, you could be on Facebook as your brand.
Yeah.
And so if you're on Facebook as Hole in the Wall and you're scrolling the Hole in the Wall feed and you're totally on the clock. And if you're monitoring groups that 'cause
See,
you
Bill,
guys,
I'm on the clock.
you guys get tagged all the time, and
I think it's your own guilty
It's true.
conscience working on you
it's
there,
true.
James.
Sometimes.
Corporate America has ruined you, buddy.
Listen, you look at
Yeah.
my Facebook feed, it's barbecue, maybe a gun or a cigar, or it's comedy. That's my Facebook feed.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's all the business stuff. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm unabashedly goofing off
I'm pretty
once in
boring.
a while.
occasionally.
Yeah.
So I have this opportunity to be on Facebook as other brands
Yeah.
all the time. So I see their feeds, and occasionally I'll be on their feed scrolling. And I'm like, why am I seeing this? I'm somebody else. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's weird. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, go to my profile. It makes more sense. So, but yeah.
So you're saying you're on as someone else, and
Yeah.
you're seeing what would be hitting their feed.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So Facebook tailors what you see on your feed
course.
based on,
Who
you know,
you are.
yeah.
Like today when the review came through, she had to reply as us. So she's
Yeah.
on Facebook as
Gotcha.
us.
As- yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people have other people do their social media. So it's kind of funny.
Cool people.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited about where we're gonna go next year though. I mean, we've had some really cool experiences this year. We went and have done things we didn't think we were gonna do. I've met people I didn't know I was gonna meet.
Yeah.
And what I love is that I'm sure you guys are too, but for me personally, I'm smarter
Yeah.
today than it was a year ago.
No,
Yeah.
and if we make as much progress this coming year
Yeah.
as we made in the past year,
Mm-hmm.
I pity
Yeah.
Pity
the fool.
Pitiful.
If you're a Gen X, you know what I'm talking about. We won't name any names.
Yeah, we gotta be careful. All of our young entrepreneurs, like, what are you talking about?
They can Google Gen X. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
They'll be all right. We didn't have that advantage.
The Mr. T, 18,
Mr.
I
T,
pity the fool.
Pity the Fool. Good stuff.
Great
right
show.
there.
It's funny. It's funny how we've kind of come at a thought and then we've turned into a year worth of stuff. I mean, it's when this hits, we'll be at episode 51.
Yeah.
I mean, most podcasts take seasons and they do 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and they take a break.
What did you tell me? The average
7.
podcast seven, and they're
Yeah.
done.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But like my marketing brain, you guys would be like, oh my God, that's failure, right?
Yeah.
But from a marketing perspective,
Mm-hmm.
right, it gets you, it's one more thing that pops, right? When you're being searched for or keywords or whatever. So
It's true, yeah.
you pop, right?
Mhm.
And so there's value to it. And so you can run 7, 10, 12, whatever, and be done. And some people use a podcast simply as to store a record of some verbal content
Yeah.
that they can then drive people to, like, oh, okay, you want to know about keyword strategy. Here you go.
Oh,
You want to,
We're going to do
Right?
this.
But, yeah.
That's going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
our franchisees they're going to get a list of, hey,
yeah,
here's some homework.
yeah,
Listen to these. Because when we talk about company alignment, I mean, that podcast was one of my favorite ones where we literally talked about in episode 14 where, whether it's employees or franchisees, you have to be aligned as a company.
Absolutely.
If you're just, sometimes it's just not a good fit, right? But when they're hiring their employees, this is knowledge they want to have, they
Yeah.
need to have, right? So
and they may never have thought about
Yeah.
it.
developing a positive company culture, we have employees that have sat here and have, my last job, my boss would scream at us all day long, cuss at us, and he's basically cracking the whip and getting in fights with the employees. And because we are in the construction business, and construction can have some pretty roughnecks in there sometimes.
yeah,
Well, we don't want that
Yeah.
for our future business owners that work with us.
Of course.
And so being able to, or how do I go about getting my phone to ring? We have a whole episode
yeah,
where we talk about what we've done so far and how to get your phone to ring.
yeah,
Or I want some marketing ideas, or I need to get some accounting information. Well, let's listen to the Ali Guzari podcast. I mean, episode 15, he's our CPA. He is the one who does all of our CPA work. He has a ton of knowledge in episode 15. He's coming
Yeah.
back on here in a few weeks to talk about, the next thing for him.
Yeah.
And those are all great things that we want our future business partners
Absolutely.
to be able to kind of go through. That's really one of the reasons why we started the podcast is
Yeah.
like, we have so much knowledge in here and we could sit here and I could have, if you think that we're going to have 51 episodes when this drops, and if every episode averages 30 minutes, which they don't, that we've got 25 hours of knowledge dropping that we've been able to kind of extract. And so
Yeah.
we could sit here and talk to somebody for an hour, or if they don't have the time or we don't have the time, we can at least point them to listen to the Level Up podcast, episode 40. It talks about how to go to the next level when you want
And
to.
the beautiful thing of every one of those hours is we either learn something from that guest or they learn something from us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to leave this with talking about culture. I've told you guys this in person before, but I don't think I've said it on podcast. I've been in small business marketing for 13 years, and I've talked to and seen the inside of a lot of businesses and organizations. And I have military background if you've been in the military, you understand this, but if you haven't, what you need to understand is your job is training, right? The entire operations outside of war is training for war. You're either at war, right? Executing a mission, or you're training for war. That's it. That's your entire job training. So we get that. So, but that doesn't always equate to a good culture. I've seen military offices and operations, and I've seen good culture in the military, and I've seen and heard about some really atrocious culture happens. It's a reflection of people, right? It happens. And I've seen good culture in small business, and I've seen horrible culture in small business. But I can honestly, without a doubt, say that you guys have literally the best culture of any business I've seen the inside of.
Well, I'm humbled to hear you say that.
Kudos, Bill. Good job.
No, I'm
Fist bump that right there.
that's what we always hoped for,
Yeah.
but I'm humbled to hear you say
Yeah.
that.
Now, if I find anybody who has a better culture than you, I will let you know so you can go do what they're doing. But that's the whole, but I haven't experienced it. There could, and that's the way, I know that we work, the three of us sitting here, is like, if somebody's doing it better, I'm going to learn from them.
Yeah.
How do I make me better? Right.
Yeah.
And
Well, we talk about this, Bill and I do, is I can't wait for one of our business partners to do better than we do.
Oh, totally.
I just cannot wait for that
Oh,
one entrepreneur who buys a franchise and wherever
better
he
than you.
is,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, boss, I just did a $2 million a year." Oh
Yeah.
my goodness!
It's like when your kids grow up and do really cool stuff. You're like, yay!
Yeah.
It just means more to you
I'm
than them.
so excited to
than-
see people succeed. And I mean, like we have employees that have gone and done other things, and I give them listen, great job.
Yeah.
In your future endeavors. So I love that. That's the culture we want to have. Listen, I've been a part of some great companies, been a part of some crappy companies.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be a different culture. When I came on board with Bill, like it was on his radar. He knows what he likes, but he doesn't know how to implement it. And so when I came on board, we want to give. It's a construction company. Well, you don't do holiday pay for construction companies. Yeah, we do. It's like what we do now, because we want them to have a quality of life. We want them to enjoy their family time without sweating the fact that the day after Thanksgiving, they got to go to work, because if not, they're not going to get paid.
Like 4th of July, I forgot what we were doing. I'm driving around, and there was a house being constructed, and there were workers on the house.
Absolutely.
I was driving through Oviedo, and there's a home being worked, and I'm like, "Are you serious? Seriously?"
Well,
Yeah.
If they don't get holiday pay, they got to work.
Yeah.
Or they don't get paid.
Yeah.
This is the Undrywall. We want to be the Undrywall company.
Yeah.
Not your father's drywall company.
That resonates to some people. It does.
Absolutely.
Well, good.
Good stuff.
Well, I'm excited to kind of see where this next year goes. Who knows what happens? Our goals are out there now in the ether. So we want to do certain things. Jordan Peterson, feel free to come on the podcast anytime. I'll Zoom you in, even if we have to. I can't wait to start doing more video work, and I can't wait to have more exciting entrepreneurs show up and talk about their business.
It's sure to happen. It's sure to happen.
Yeah, that's great. Trish, thanks for hosting today.
Yep. Thanks,
My pleasure.
Trish.
It's always a great time with you guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
It's so good. Listen, everyone, thank you for helping us get to 1 year, and thank you for all that you do with Hole in the Wall, and I hope you enjoy this podcast. Thanks, everyone. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.